G'day, this is Professor Joseph Drew, and in this video I'll talk about what you need to do to be fit to think. Now, this idea for the video came up after a public meeting I had at Central Coast Council, and a retired rehabilitation physician was talking to me about my own experiences and asked me if I'd consider doing a video about it. So here it is, and I hope it's of a lot of use to students, PhD students, academics, and just about anyone. Thank you. So my journey is that I started a PhD because I had a catastrophic motorcycle accident on a highway. A lady in a utility literally drove straight over the top of me. This is not my picture of my Ducati Monster, but it is a picture of a Ducati Monster. In fact, mine was in considerably more parts by the end of the experience. I was initially reported dead and had lots of spinal surgery and other orthopedic operations, my knee, my shoulder. I was supposed to get some more surgery done on my neck that I never bothered to proceed with, because eventually I discovered that there is a better way. You can optimize your mind and you can optimize your body. You are stronger, smarter, and better than your body. You are not your body. You have a soul, you have a mind and an intellect that you can perfect, and that's the thing that will always stay with you and need never deteriorate, can never be stolen or lost. It's the most valuable thing you can develop, and it's the thing that can stay with you to eternity if you believe in life after death. So I started my PhD, I wasn't fit, I was still being screwed together. And whilst I did my PhD in 18 months, typically it's 3 or 4 years, and had 6 A-rank publications, got the DHW award, and was very successful. I look back on that early work in my first 4 years or so, I think, no, I wasn't thinking well, I wasn't working well. It's not work I'm proud of. It's not bad work, it made it to A-rank journals, but it's not work I'm proud of. And if I'm not doing something really innovative, really powerful, something with the capacity to change the way things are done and to improve things for people, well, it's not good work. It's work you do to keep your job, but the work I want to do is work that changes the world. And to be at that standard, you've got to be fit to think. So eating is a very important part about being fit to think. And probably a large part of it is not eating. I practice intermittent fasting. For 20 hours a day, I don't eat. So I typically start work about 6 a.m. I don't eat until sometime after 2 p.m. Often it's later than that. And that's when my best thinking and my best work gets done. Now, it took me ages to get my head around it. And a particularly influential part of my thinking was not the YouTube videos. Some of them are okay, but it's not very scientific. There was a book written by Dr. John Dewey in 1908, I believe, The No Breakfast Diet. And he made some really valid points. My first degree was in biology and physical mathematics, so I understand the biology side of things. The food I'm burning in the morning to produce thinking is not breakfast that I just had. It's food I consumed 24 to 36 hours ago. The fuel that my body runs best on, the fuel your body will run best on, are ketones and the breaking down of fat, not on carbohydrates. We weren't designed to be run on sugar. Sugar is something we decided to get ourselves addicted to in the last century or two. It's not part of our design. So if you want to be at your optimal performance, you need to fuel your vehicle the way the designer created it. And we weren't created to load up on carbohydrates and sugar every morning and caffeine every morning. That's not what we were created to run on. So intermittent fasting is a key part of my fitness to think. Once I do eat 2 p.m., finish breakfast about 2:30, 3 p.m. After that, it's pretty well downhill. That's the time I give over to admin and all those sorts of things for the next 3 hours until I knock off at 6 p.m. the really super thinking, the super work gets done early in the morning. And I know when I started this a few years ago, my output increased tremendously, and it had to, because at my university, like a lot of universities, there's mass redundancies. I used to have a section of 3, now I have a section of me. So I'm doing 3 times more work. And in those situations, when you want to be at the forefront of academia, when you want to be producing innovative, breaking work that really changes things and improves people's lives, you've got to be at your best. And if I've just had a big breakfast and I feel like going to sleep, like most of us do after a big meal, that's not when I'm going to be producing my best. But there's also certain foods we can eat which certainly improves our performance. When I do eat, my breakfast will always have an egg in there. Choline is very important. The B vitamins, the fats, they're all important to fuel the next day's thinking. Because when I'm having my breakfast at 2 p.m., that's the fuel I'll be using 6 a.m. the next day to do my thinking. Walnuts, Galen, however you'd like to pronounce it, Maimonides, my favourite natural law philosopher, who was also a physician, was very fond of Galen's work. He said walnuts were awesome for your brain and your body and your health. They used to have the doctrine of signatures. That was something Galen talked about. If a food looks like a certain body part, his thinking was that the creator must have created it with that picture, that image, so that we could understand which food to eat for which particular body part. Now, walnut looks a lot like a brain. Now, the newfangled science saying walnuts are awesome for your brain. Well, Maimonides said that back in the 1100s, Galen before him. Fish oil, particularly wild-caught fish oil, not farm fish. It's going to have the nutrients, it's going to have the omega-3s and the DHA that you need for your brain to be functioning at its optimum performance. Dark chocolate, not light chocolate. Light chocolate will just get the carb cravings happening. At the end of my breakfast come lunch at 2:30, I'll have quite a large square of 90% cocoa dark chocolate, and that sort of stokes me up for the next day. And matcha, this Japanese green tea, they actually powder up the whole leaf, so you get all the benefits of the leaf, not just the stuff that soaks out in the water. And it's a critical part of my eating too. But the most important thing is that I reduce myself to 2 meals a day. I've lost an awful lot of weight. People that knew me from years ago know I'm about 40 kilograms lighter. But honestly, I feel like I'm back in my 20s. I'm just so raring to go, so bright, able to make insights and connections that I haven't seen before. And I don't credit it all to me. Anyone that knows me knows I'm deeply religious. My inspiration comes from Hashem, but I've got to feel the machine the way he designed it if I want it to work to his specifications and to the potential that he set out in his design. So that's what I do. Intermittent fasting, and when I do eat, I eat the right foods, human foods. Foods that people ate throughout most of history, not all this newfangled sugar-laced rubbish that we eat these days. But eating alone is not being fit to think. You've got to be physically fit, and around 7:30 a.m. at this time of the year, because I have a farm and it changes with the seasons because I've got to let the animals out and milk in certain seasons and things like that. But around 7 p.m. I go for a half or 20-minute very brisk walk, 3 kilometers, almost running pace. This is a person with spinal cord injuries and a wide up knee. And I force myself through the pain, and I force myself to walk at this very fast pace because it gets blood circulating and it builds up the physical fitness I need to work during the day. And to tell you the truth, most of my best thinking and most of my inspiration comes to me in that morning walk. I pray and then I think about my work. And that's when my best ideas, my best thinking usually comes to me. There was a school of philosophy called the Peripatetics, who believed that this, amongst other things, was very important for thinking. And now, Once again, newfangled science is finally catching up with things from 2,000 years ago now. They're saying that exercise is important. It can help with brain plasticity and building up the brain, and help with thinking, and help with depression and all these other things. But the ancients knew that. Maimonides said go for a walk first thing in the morning in his regime for health. If you haven't got the book, go and get it. You can get it on an iBook or Amazon or one of those things, Kindle. I've got paper copies and online copies. Awesome book, written 1,000 years ago, and is speaking a lot more sense than most modern doctors have spoken until very recently. They're now catching up to what Moses Maimonides was saying almost 1,000 years ago. But yes, you've got to be physically fit to think, and part of that is the pain of going through the walk, the exertion. Part of that is me being more than my animal body, me using my willpower, my soul, to assert what I want to be and what I can be over the limitations of my frail body. And that's why I put myself through this every day. And it's a challenge to me to do more than what should be possible. I've had orthopedic surgeons tell me I'll never be able to walk again. And I think it was the consensus of my compensation claim that I'd never work again. Certainly the consensus of Education Queensland. And here I am working, performing, at the highest levels in my field. So this certainly is a very important part of my day. After lunch, or just before lunch, I go for another brisk 1.5 kilometre walk, much shorter. And once again, that gets the brain stimulated. That's when I reflect on the work that I've done, the bulk of the work which has already been done for the day. And generally after lunch I'll come back and I'll make some really important changes. And once again, it's happened during this exercise phase. It's so important. If you're physically unfit like I was many years ago, you'll struggle. If you struggle to do exercise, how do you think you're going to be able to think? Thinking requires energy. It requires your body to be tuned at its peak performance. It requires you to be more than your body and to be better than the limitations of your body. So if you can't do this physically, I just don't see how you propose to do it intellectually. So I also believe you have to have a purpose. You have to really believe in the topic, believe in the work you're doing. Hopefully believe that you're doing it to help others, not just yourself. I follow the teachings of Maimonides on this particular point. Other points I follow Aquinas, as people who know my work recognize it confuses a lot of people. I'm either Catholic or Jewish. No one quite knows where I stand. But in this one, I definitely follow Maimonides. My ultimate end is to perfect my intellect, to get to a stage where I can grasp fundamental truths about the nature of being, why I'm here, what awaits me in the next life, why there is something in the first place, and what can exist in the next instance. Now, as I said, I died in a motorcycle accident. I've been very privileged and blessed to have an insight into what awaits us, and that's what drives me forward. I seek to do work which is innovative and different and pushes the boundaries. It'd be much easier to write the same old boring papers that everyone has written. They get published in A-ranked journals, no particular trouble at all with that. If you want to be innovative and different and new and extend the boundaries, lots of rejections and troubles and revisions. But that's my purpose, is to improve myself and hopefully to play a small part in improving others. And I believe that I get my inspiration from a source beyond me. I don't think I'm a genius by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm grateful that I do get that inspiration. So that's how I think you get fit to think. I'd be interested to hear your comments, and I hope that's answered the questions of the dear gentleman that so generously gave me his time after the public meeting the other day. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.